Could governments ban Bitcoin? Is it possible? That's what I want to be talking about in this video. Could governments ban Bitcoin? Is it possible? That's what I want to be talking about in this video.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Now, before I start this video, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, join my official Telegram announcements channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, come on, please, come over and support my work on bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey and also bit.ly/CryptoRich3Speak. Although, to tell you the truth, I'm a little bit slow uploading my videos on 3Speak, so they show up on Odyssey straight away. Now, one of the ways that you can keep your Bitcoin and your cryptocurrency secure is by storing them in a hardware wallet. Now, Decent right now are offering up to 40% off plus 150 A-star coins. Provided you make a purchase before January the 3rd, you can use my link in the description below to buy any one of these packages. And provided you purchase before January the 3rd, you'll qualify for the discounts and you can submit your address to the team at Decent by 14th of January, and then they will deposit 150 A-star coins into your address in your Decent biometric wallet. Keep your crypto secure, use a Decent wallet. Now, this is a really interesting article from Zero Hedge, and it was published on December the 15th, and I thought it answered some really great questions about government's attempts to ban Bitcoin. And it asked, can the government ban Bitcoin? 4 things you need to know today. Now, I'm not going to go through the article word for word. I'll link to it in the description below, and you can look it up for yourself, but I think they make some powerful arguments. Now, of course, governments are going to want to ban Bitcoin. Why are they going to ban Bitcoin? Because it takes away their monopoly. You know, wouldn't you love it if you had the power to issue currency, to issue the means of value exchange throughout the economy, that you had that power? You know, central banks, they issue currency in the form of debt, and then we get taxed in order to pay back that debt. But the only way we can generate any more revenue to pay back that debt is through the creation of more cryptocurrency, is through the creation of more currency in the form of more debt. So it is ultimately unpayable, and we end up being an economy, a whole society of debt slaves. Now, for the central bankers, that's a really, really lucrative business model. And then along comes Bitcoin. Bitcoin alters that status quo. It disrupts that mechanism that central bankers have of exerting a monopoly on the issuance of value transfer, of tokenized energy, because that's what money is and that's what currencies are. So if you were a central bankster, then of course you're going to do something to protect your business model. But Bitcoin presents significant challenges, and one of those is that Bitcoin has no centralized locus of control, no centralized points of failure. There's no central authority, no single point of failure. It runs on a decentralized, voluntary, and growing worldwide network of over 17,300 computers in nearly 100 countries. Any desktop, laptop, Raspberry Pi, and even some cell phones have the potential to run the full Bitcoin software. And as technology advances, running Bitcoin will become even more widespread. Plus, as the Bitcoin price goes up and more people get interested in Bitcoin, meanwhile fiat currencies are being inflated away, so the demand for Bitcoin will go up because of that. There's going to be even more interest and even more decentralization. Now, many of these computers are hidden with Tor, which stands for the onion router, and what that does, it encrypts the internet traffic and hides it by bouncing it through a series of computers worldwide to obfuscate the address and the physical location of those computers that are running the Bitcoin code. Plus, because there's no company or organization behind Bitcoin, there's nobody for them to go to, for the government regulators to go for and say, hey, listen, you got to stop this, because it runs on a decentralized open source network, and it doesn't have a CZ like Binance did or Sam Bankman-Fried like FTX did. There's nobody like that behind the Bitcoin protocol. Now, if every government in the world were to coordinate together in order to suppress and stop the Bitcoin algorithm, then maybe they would have a chance. But the chances of that happening, I think, are very, very slim. You have El Salvador using Bitcoin as legal tender. You have the Bhutanese government mining Bitcoin. There may be other governments that are doing that as well. You have Suriname looking at how they can make Bitcoin legal tender. You have Argentina, which have now said that contracts can be settled with Bitcoin. So you can have an increasingly fractious network of governments. Some of them are going to be more favorable towards Bitcoin, and they're not going to want to join in shutting Bitcoin down. Now, even if that were possible, the Bitcoin network can be communicated over radio signals and mesh networks. At the same time, small portable solar panels can power the computers running the network if the regular grid is unavailable. And there are also a network of satellites constantly beaming the Bitcoin network down to Earth. Bitcoin's strength is its decentralization and how robust it is. So unless the entire world returns to the Stone Age, Bitcoin appears to be unstoppable. Now, if they can't shut it down, will they ban it? Algeria, Bangladesh, Bolivia, Ecuador, Egypt, India, Iran, Kyrgyzstan, Morocco, Nepal, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and numerous others, including China, have tried to ban Bitcoin, but they've all failed. Now, if I wanted to go to Bangladesh where Bitcoin is banned, and I wanted to transact in Bangladesh using Bitcoin, it'd be pretty simple. I could use a decentralized VPN like the Sentinel.co VPN, or I could use NordVPN or something, and then from that I can then access a Bitcoin wallet from anywhere. I could download Exodus wallet. I could restore it from the 12-seed phrase that I would have memorized or stored in different places using some sort of code that only I know. And then by using NordVPN, I'm able to access websites all over the world and obfuscate the data going in and out of my computer. And then I'll be able to transact with Bitcoin. And just because a government bans it doesn't stop people from using that thing. Governments ban all sorts of things, like cannabis is illegal in many countries, murder is illegal in many countries, but people still go around murdering each other. And with something as useful as Bitcoin, banning it will just increase the cost of it, which will make it even more desirable. Now, the author asks, could the US government ban Bitcoin? And he says no, because Bitcoin is simply open source computer code that is available to anyone. And in Bernstein versus the US Department of State case, US federal courts ruled that computer code is equivalent to speech protected by the First Amendment of the US Constitution. Now, we've had all sorts of constitutional violations in the last few years by the US, but nevertheless, that it's recognized as protected speech would make it really difficult for the US government to ban. It would also be difficult for the US government to ban because it's already regulated. There's already regulatory clarity. The Securities and Exchange Commission views almost all cryptocurrencies as unregistered securities, which makes them vulnerable to enforcement actions. But Bitcoin, it says here, is the only cryptocurrency that is unambiguously not a security. Now, I was wondering about this, right? I don't know how accurate that is. Yes, definitely Bitcoin is not a security, it's a commodity. But Dogecoin and Litecoin, also proof of work coins with no organization behind them, open source code, decentralized, robust, they can't be securities. The only difference between them and Bitcoin is that they came later and they use slightly different codes, so they're faster and cheaper. I thought Bitcoin was a currency, as money, but it also as a commodity can be seen as a commodity because it is an asset without an issuer. Like gold, there's nobody issuing gold. Silver, copper, wheat, corn, and other commodities have producers, but they do not have issuers. Now again here, the author says every other cryptocurrency other than Bitcoin has an issuer. Really? Dogecoin? Litecoin? They also have identifiable founders, central foundations, marketing teams, and insiders who can exercise undue control. Now, I'm not sure if that's the case for Litecoin and Dogecoin, and perhaps there are others who also don't have identifiable founders, central foundations, marketing teams, and insiders who can exercise undue control. Let me know in the description below if there's any others that you think fit that bill. And if the SEC did want to regulate Bitcoin, well, there's nobody for them to go after. Nobody like Sam Bankman-Fried, who was the CEO of FTX, or CZ, who was in charge of Binance. There's nobody like that. There's no Bitcoin headquarters, there's no CEO, no marketing department, and no employees. Now, as I said earlier, government bans may restrict something, but they cannot make something valuable and desired by many people go away by passing a law. Just because they say it's banned doesn't mean people aren't going to want it. Many governments, like Argentina and Venezuela, have had laws restricting citizens from accessing US dollars. What do citizens do? They access US dollars, and they do so in an ever-growing black market, or more accurately, a free market. Same deal with cannabis. Governments have not been successful in prohibiting cannabis over the decades. Cannabis is freely available in many Western countries where it's illegal. Trying to enforce a prohibition on something digital and borderless like Bitcoin is entirely impractical. And Bitcoin would be far more challenging for governments to ban than US dollars or a plant. It is possible to travel around the world from one country to another, taking out Bitcoin without the authorities knowing. Uninstall, say, the Exodus wallet on your computer, leave the country, go through customs, land in another country, run your NordVPN, go to exodus.com, download the Exodus wallet, restore it with the seed phrase, and then transact with Bitcoin locally. Always with your VPN on though. How will governments try and ban 12-word seed phrases? They can't do it. Then there's the institutions and the individuals and the corporations and the large players that want to get in on Bitcoin. They're going to be advocating for Bitcoin, and they're not going to want it banned. There are 46 million Americans who already own Bitcoin. That's about 22% of the adults in the United States. Trying to ban something like Bitcoin that's protecting the First Amendment, that's already regulated, and that has over a fifth of American adults behind it, that ain't going to work. That's not a winning electoral strategy. Now, if one government were to ban Bitcoin, there'll be other governments that won't ban Bitcoin, and the government that bans Bitcoin will be at a disadvantage. Now, what governments can do, though, is they can restrict or try and manage and monitor the gateway, the on-ramp and the off-ramp from Bitcoin to fiat. But I think what's going to happen over time is we're going to have a parallel economy, especially with the emergence and the use of privacy-focused cryptocurrencies like Pirate Chain. That's going to make it even harder. And then using Pirate Chain or Monero, people will be able to transact without having to leave the world of crypto. All right, that's it. Let me know what you think. Is it really going to be possible for governments to ban Bitcoin? And before I sign off, don't forget, up to 40% off on decent wallets if you order it before January the 3rd. And you'll have an opportunity to get 150 A-star coins too. Link in the description below. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with Bitcoin profits. This is Crypto Rich signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.